On Saturday, on CNN's The Van Jones Show, Representative Tulsi Gabbard, who is a Democrat from Hawaii, announced that she is indeed going to be running for president in 2020.
Are you gonna run for president of the United States and do something about it? Do you think she should? Do you think she should? Are you gonna run?
I have decided to run and will be making a formal announcement within the next week.
Whoa! Holy, I got some ratings. That's amazing. Well,
Look, there are a lot of reasons for me to make this decision. There are a lot of challenges that are facing the American people that I'm concerned about and that I want to help solve. Issues relating to making sure that people who are sick get access to the health care that they need, making sure that people who are stuck in our broken criminal justice system and the families that are torn apart are being helped, that are being served, making sure we're taking action to protect our planet for us and for the future. There's a whole host of issues that I'm looking forward to addressing, and there is one main issue that is central to the rest, and that is the issue of war and peace. And I look forward to being able to get into this and to talk about it in depth when we make our announcement.
You know what? I think it's very interesting what she mentioned last.
The central issue, the main issue.
Her main issue in regard to war and peace, which I think should be a central focus for progressives. If we want to look at this person, look at Tulsi Gabbard as a potential, or you want to potentially vote for her for president, I think it's important that we examine that issue as far as her approach and her positioning in regard to war, stuff like that.
True. Now, okay.
But we're not going to do that right now.
Well, we can get into it by saying this. Okay, so in 2015, 2016, Tulsi Gabbard was really nameless. She was a member of Congress and had been a member of Congress since 2013, but I don't believe she was really known on the national scale. Now, she created waves and she created a stir because she was one of the vice chairs for the Democratic National Committee, and she withdrew that position so that she could publicly support Bernie Sanders for president in 2016. So there were many people that were thrilled with that decision, even though we really didn't know too much about her as a candidate, and even, well, not as a candidate. We didn't know a lot about her as an elected official, and even what her background was before that.
Her political track record.
Yeah, but a lot of people saw that as like, hey, great job, and even us back when it was done, we were like, we applauded the decision because, of course, we did support Bernie Sanders for president. So if somebody feels it necessary to support Bernie Sanders, and she couldn't do that with her position as a vice chair. So we did think it was like, moral coverage. We thought it was very important if she did feel the need to do that, to actually do it.
Her step down kind of like validated a lot of our concerns, a lot of the concerns of progressives that the DNC had it in for Bernie Sanders.
Right.
So her step down kind of like gave credence to that speculation, or that which we had enough proof for anyway.
True. So. Now, the reason why, the main reason why she said that, herself stated that she actually stepped away from her position and supported Bernie Sanders, was because of war. She stated that she talked a lot about the true cost of war, which is, all the deaths, all the carnage. So she said that was the true cost of war. So there was only one person that was in the race that she could support in regard to that issue. Now, again, if you take a look at who Tulsi Gabbard is as an elected official, even going back just a few years, it gets a little questionable. So in 2015, excuse me. So in 2015, she actually appeared on Fox News a multitude of times, and it was almost like these conservative outlets were reaching out to her a lot. They reached out to her a lot, and she made frequent appearances.
But why was that? Why do you think they reached out to her?
Well, I believe it started with this one issue that we're going to talk about. So if you remember back during former President Barack Obama's tenure, he many times refused to say the term radical Islamic terrorism. He didn't say it at all. And I remember at least one time he explained that he didn't use the term because it legitimized what ISIS was. It legitimized them as being Islamic. And he didn't want to do that. He didn't consider their ideology to be the Islam faith. So that's why he didn't do it. And I agree with that. I believe we both agree with it. And we actually stated that on one of our videos as well. Now, Representative Gabbard, she disagreed. And so in this video, which she was on Fox News, she states why she disagreed.
The danger here is, again, that you're not identifying the threat and you're not identifying the fact that they are not fueled by a materialistic motivation. It's actually a theological, this radical Islamic ideology that is allowing them to continue to recruit, that is allowing them to continue to grow in strength, and really that's fueling these horrific terroristic activities around the world.
You know what? We covered that clip 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
2 years ago.
It was late 2016.
2016. So it was a little over 2 years ago. And quite honestly, I have a chip on my shoulder because our like to dislike ratio, because of that video, was very skewed.
Oh, yes.
Skewed.
Yes, it was. We caught a lot of flack for that.
We caught a lot of flack for that. Our like to dislike ratio is usually at like 95%, 98%. But that one was like 75 to 80%. So we had a lot of people dislike that video because we were just throwing up some red flags. And
or addressing
addressing some red flags we saw. And like right now, it's a little bit more popular to point those things out. There's a lot of larger leftist platforms that are now talking about this because she put her name out there, and even before she put her name out there, because there was speculation that she would. Right. So there's a lot of platforms and networks that are larger than us, who weren't talking about this 2 years ago, who are talking about it now, who have kind of popularized this examination of Tulsi Gabbard, when we kind of wanted to address these red flags 2 years ago and got shit for it. So yes, there's a chip on my shoulder for that. But there's something else that I noticed that I didn't notice 2 years ago about that clip. And she says, in regard to Obama not addressing, I guess, ISIS terrorism as radical Islamic terrorism, she says, you're not identifying the threat. What does that tell you? If she has a problem with it not being called radical Islamic terrorism, she is suggesting that Islam is the threat. That's what she is suggesting. And she may not like the way Obama tone policed himself in regard to how he describes ISIS, but she sure did support how he expanded the United States drone program. You see what I'm saying? Like, she can come out here and get into this kind of, to me, like this trivial dispute that really doesn't change the trajectory of American imperialism and like Middle East occupation all she wants. But she supported that drone program. It just seems as if like this kind of exposes some other personal agenda. You see what I'm saying? Rather than an actual, I guess, political strategy. Like for her to get into this trivial battle about what these groups are called kind of, to me, points in the direction of a personal bias, a personal ideology.
Well, it does speak to a contradiction when, again, she talked about the true cost of war many, many, many times. And if she actually supported Obama's drone program, there's a true cost of that war. I mean, there's a true cost to the people that are overseas feeling all those drones, because we know we know from the reports. It's not just Obama. We don't want to just blame it on Obama, but because of these drones, they don't just hit intended targets. They hit innocent civilians many of the time.
To me, it actually like kind of addressing it in that way kind of actually gives Obama some kind of cover, especially amongst your tried and true Democrat and tried and true Democratic voters. It kind of gives Obama some cover. Like, see, he doesn't want to call these, this radical group radical Islamic terrorism. So it makes him seem like a benevolent war criminal. So it does kind of give him cover. It almost sounds like what she's doing has not the effect of what she thinks it does.
So we're going to speak on another issue as well. And again, this is something that we talked about going back to the end of 2016. And it's about her past history on gay marriage, or her feelings about it, what she has stated, what she has done. Now, I did recently see a Young Turk segment on this issue. And Cenk and Anna, I guess they felt some type of way that mainstream media, like CNN, there have been other media outlets that have, you know, if you want to say they have attacked Tulsi Gabbard, you can say that. If you just say that, you know, they're going into her history and finding some stuff, you know, you can say it whatever way. But it does seem like they do that far more often than they do it to establishment candidates or establishment politicians. And I will go ahead and admit that, no doubt. But that does not alleviate Tulsi Gabbard from these questions. All right. So in 2004, okay. Well, first of all, her father, Mike Gabbard, is known to be very anti-gay, very anti-LGBT, and coming up in that background, I guess coming up in that household, whatever. I don't know if you can expect it, but I guess it wouldn't surprise you that she held some of those feelings as well. So in her time as a state representative in the state legislature in Hawaii, she denounced gay marriage many times. She made statements against it. In 2004, there was a bill that was advocating for civil unions, and she opposed it. And at the time, she stated, "To try to act as if there is a difference between civil unions and same-sex marriage is dishonest, cowardly, and extremely disrespectful to the people of Hawaii. As Democrats, we should be representing the views of the people, not a small number of homosexual extremists." Now, that is very bigoted language. That's very uncomfortable, no doubt. I don't support any type of that. Now, you could say, okay, that was all the way back in 2004. That was about 14 years ago. 14 years ago, she was approximately, what, in her early 20s, something like that. 23, I believe, something like that, right? And you could say, well, hey, you know, she, I don't know, she didn't, you know, live enough of a life, you know.
She didn't really know, like, how much damage she was causing. She didn't recognize, like, how many, I guess, lives she could possibly be affecting by her activism, or yada yada yada.
You could say that, and I will say that people do evolve. People do evolve. It's just that you have to know some other things that she has said and done, and then you have to make, you know, you have to maybe question if this involvement is genuine or not. So in that same 2004, in regards to that bill, not only did she make disparaging comments about gay marriage, or not gay marriage, about civil unions, she actually protested against the bill too, held up signs as well. So it just seems to be a very extreme position for one to move away from. And if we're being honest, the point in which she moved away from that extreme position seemed to correlate with her run for U.S. office, U.S. representative, for the U.S. House of Representatives. It seemed to correlate with that campaign. Also,
the abrupt change ran parallel to her running for office, which in most cases people would question.
Yes.
But they don't with her.
No.
There's a problem there.
There's a problem.
There's a definite problem there. Like, I don't think we can constantly hearken back to her. Yes, it was bold. Yes, it was commendable. We can't keep hearkening back to the move she made when Bernie was running for president.
Right.
As our, I guess, illustration of why she is a progressive that should be supported. Mm-hmm. You can't keep going back to that.
Right.
You know, she's good on a couple of positions, like TPP and PAYGO.
Yeah.
But I think it would be irresponsible if we did not point out some, like, kind of troubling flaws.
Some red flags.
Some red flags, you know what I'm
saying? Now, because this is coming out now, and of course it's coming out because she has made the announcement that she's going to run for president, she did make a statement to CNN, who, like I said, they brought up these concerns about her. And she said, First, let me say I regret the positions I took in the past and the things I said. I'm grateful for those in the LGBTQ community who have shared their aloha with me throughout my personal journey. So again, I've stated that yes, it's possible for people to evolve on the issue of marriage equality, civil unions, but then again, you just have to question like the extreme position that she was in and how it was done, how it did correlate with her run for U.S. office. Also,
she's instilled in support of those same groups, those same special interest groups. She's still those far right Hindu groups.
Yeah. That's a concern as well.
That's a concern as well. She still like kind of has connections to those groups.
Yeah. Well, where I was gonna go was it was in December of last year where she stated that the reason why she moved away from these extreme positions on gay marriage and civil unions, the reason why she moved away from that is because of her time serving in the military. Because she said that seeing conflicts overseas helped her realize that everyone is due equality. And quote, our laws, our government must apply that respect for every single individual. Now, again, I have questions about this, okay? Gabbard joined or enlisted in the Hawaii Army National Guard in 2003, okay? Now, she made these very inflammatory comments in 2004. Now, throughout her time in the Hawaii Army National Guard, she made trips she went to Iraq, she went to Kuwait. It wasn't until 2012 where she changed her position. So I'm just like, if you change your position prior to running for United States House of Representatives, that seat, why wasn't anybody aware of that before then? If your experience in the Hawaii Army National Guard, your time overseas, seeing all these conflicts, seeing how bigotry is everywhere and how, people are discriminated against, held down, suppressed. I mean, like, if you saw all of this and you said that, hey, you know what? I got to change my position. I really got to kind of reflect on the way I was thinking about things. Why did it take 9 years for you to actually state that publicly?
So, again, I think that the question that we asked 2 years ago is still relevant. Was she doing kind of those political flips for political expediency? Was she making those flips because of that?
It seems like it to me. Now, more recently, this was just last week, she wrote an op-ed for The Hill, and she claimed that it was, quote, religious bigotry, end quote, to question and criticize a Trump nominee for his affiliation with the Knights of Columbus, which is a Catholic organization that has anti-gay and anti-abortion views. And again, she felt it was religious bigotry for him to be questioned about this and for him to be, I guess, considered not qualified for the position. I have a problem with that because if you are affiliated with a group that has questionable views, then yeah, you should be asked about that, and it should have some type of effect on, I guess, my view of you. She said she noted that there have been past notable people that have been affiliated with the Knights of Columbus as well. JFK Jr. Oh no, I said JFK, Ted Kennedy. There were some others as well. So she was saying that, like, hey, if this nominee is not qualified, then those would
I don't care.
Not be qualified as well.
I really don't care. There is, like, you can list off hundreds of things that people did in the past, that people were guilty of in the past, that they did not have to face consequences for because those were just the times.
Yeah.
You can name a lot of different things that people are being held accountable for now and being questioned on now that people in the past were. So that's a horrible, like, argument.
Yo, and Republicans have done that.
Republicans have done that. And
like George Washington.
And
Trump
honestly,
has said stuff like, hey, you're going to take down, like, George Washington's statue?
Like,
he owned slaves.
Okay, yeah, you can do that too.
Yeah, we can do that.
But again, her kind of using poor methodology to defend certain people, again, raises red flags because it kind of signals that she does still retain some of these far-right inclinations. The far-right inclinations that we mentioned 2 years ago. Yeah. You see what I'm saying? Why would you kind of get defensive on this issue unless you yourself You see what I'm saying? Unless you yourself didn't have these issues. You know what I'm saying? Why would you feel the need to defend if you didn't have those kind of inclinations yourself? You know what I'm saying? Because of the reasoning she used to justify it really doesn't make sense and they're lame.
No, because if we're just talking in plain speak, just being as truthful and as blatant as possible, she's taking up for bigots. She's taking up for bigots.
It's bigotry. It's bigotry to question
she's
other
saying
people's
that
bigotry.
you're bigoted for criticizing these bigots.
Well, the thing is, she's not I guess, arguing against their viewpoint and their position. She's just saying that they shouldn't be criticized because people in the past were not held to account. Like, that's not how you defend positions. You see what I'm saying? So, I don't know.
All it is look, we note that, yes, she definitely has progressive leanings. You can call her a progressive if you want to. I won't even make any noise about that or try to fight you on that. It's just that there are definitely issues that you have to be concerned with about her. If we're going to say that somebody like Kirsten Gillibrand is guilty of political expediency, because again, she used to be a conservative Democrat, and then when she rose to the Senate, she all of a sudden became a progressive. So if that is true of her, you know, you might can say the same thing about Tulsi Gabbard.
We would have to say the same thing about Tulsi Gabbard.